Welcome, everyone, to the Hecate's Doorway podcast.
Welcome back.
Today, we have a spooky episode.
Spooky.
Because what's spookier than real-life murder?
I know, right?
Today, we have a... Yeah, actually, that's pretty scary.
Yeah. The gooch.
The gooch candle? Yo, you got the gooch candle?
Oh, man. What's today's episode about?
Today's episode is about serial killer Fritz Haarmann.
Fritz Haarmann.
Fritz Haarmann.
Ooh.
So I thought, just mix up the fun spooky with some real-life spooky.
Real-life spooky.
Real-life spooky. So, Fritz Haarmann was a German serial killer who operated in Hanover, Germany between 1918 and 1924 and was responsible for the sexual assaults and murders of 24 young men and boys.
Damn.
Yeah, it's going to be one of those episodes.
What is it with all these serial killers and whatnot that always go after boys, like boys and men?
Well, I would say it's definitely a mix of things.
Yeah.
But I think one of the reasons a lot of these fuckers go after kids is if they're not just sexually attracted to them, it's because they're easy prey.
True.
Like I think we've said it before, most serial killers will go after whoever they think they can best real quick. They're not going to take on a challenge. These are not the kind of people who will ever try to challenge anything. Like we talked about it with Richard Ramirez. Every time he'd break into a home, he'd just one-shot the husband. Yeah. Because he's like, that guy could beat the shit out of me. Pop. She's scared of me, so I'm going to torture her. So, yeah. In April of 1925, he was sentenced to death via guillotine. So there's that going for it. He was given names such as the Butcher of Hanover, the Vampire of Hanover, and the Wolfman.
Damn.
Due to the horrible way he'd mutilate the victims, as well as what seemed to be his preferred manner of murder, biting through the victims' throats.
Ah, I see.
So this is the one that we talked about a little bit on our vampire episode. The one I said might be a whole ass episode, and immediately it became a whole ass episode. Fritz was born on October 25th, 1879. And though at the time his childhood behavior was looked at as odd and abnormal, it honestly wasn't that abnormal. He was said to be a quiet child who'd rather go home after school and socialize with his siblings rather than other children. He was seen as effeminate, who didn't care for typical boys' activities and would rather play with his sister's dolls and learn needlework and cookery. He also had a close relationship with his mother, who was said spoiled her youngest child. His father, on the other hand, was said to be short-tempered and, through many different affairs, contracted syphilis. Woo! Don't look up syphilis.
It is nasty as fuck. Most of you should know by now, but...
Yeah, if you don't already know, don't look up syphilis. It's gross.
Yeah, very. No need to scar yourself with that. Fritz would begin school in 1886, where his teacher would note that he had a tendency to daydream, and though his behavior was seen as exceptional, he did not match the academic goal, and twice he had to repeat a grade. And when Fritz was 8 years old, he was molested by one of his teachers. Well, that sucks.
Yeah, there we go. There's some of that 19th century molestation.
19th century is still going on.
Yeah, that's true.
In 1894, Fritz would finish school and become an apprentice locksmith before enrolling into a military academy in Brioche.
I should know this because I took 2 years of German, but fuck, I think it's Breisach. We're gonna go Breisach on this one.
Breisach at the age of 15. At first, all was going well there, but 5 months in, he had begun suffering random losses of consciousness, which would later be diagnosed as a form of epilepsy, and in October of 1895, he would be discharged from the academy to go back to Hanover to work in his father's cigar shop.
So my man has epilepsy, which seems to be a pattern in a lot of these guys, because fucking Richard Ramirez had the epilepsy.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, sorry.
In 1898, when Fritz was 16, he was arrested after the molestation of several young boys. Starting off early.
Yep, very early.
And after several more offenses, he was deemed unfit to stand trial and was sent to a mental institution in the city of Hildesheim and would later be diagnosed as, quote, incurably deranged, end quote, by psychologist Gert Schmalfuss.
Is that how you say that?
I don't know.
Also, what's with that weird B at the end?
It's like an S. It's supposed to be an S sound, I believe.
Ah, okay.
If I remember right. And he was ordered to be kept in a mental institution indefinitely. But only 7 months into his stay in 1898, Fritz managed to escape the institution, and with the help of his mother, he fled to Zurich, Switzerland, where he was given a place to stay with a relative of his, and given a job at a local shipyard. He would stay in Switzerland for almost a year and a half until deciding it was time to go back to Germany. I don't know why he would go back. I don't know how he got away with going back.
Yeah.
Upon returning to Hanover, he would meet and become engaged to Erna Lewert, and later have a child with her in early 1900. That was until October of that year, when Fritz would again try to enter the military. I don't know how he entered the military if he was supposed to be in a mental asylum and escaped. Don't ask questions. There's going to be a lot of that in this episode. And at first, all was going well for him. He was remarked as being an exemplary soldier and an excellent marksman by his superiors. But much like his stint in the military academy, after collapsing suddenly in October of 1901 and suffering many dizzy spells, enough to earn him hospitalization, he was deemed unfit for service and discharged from the military in July of 1902. Fritz would later claim that this period was the happiest time of his life. So, yeah, he tried to join the military twice, couldn't.
And failed.
And failed both times. There's going to be a lot of that in this episode,
Yeah.
but I don't understand how he got sentenced to a mental institution, escaped, and then, not a year came back, and everyone's like, oh, hey, how's it going? Oh, you want to join the military? Sure.
Back then, it's probably a lot less strict as it is now.
I fucking guess. So weird.
Yeah.
Alright.
After being medically discharged from the military, he was awarded a pension of 21 gold marks a month and moved back to Hanover with Erna. Quick question.
Mm-hmm.
What does it mean he gets 21 gold marks?
That was I tried to look it up in American dollars, and especially today, but I'm not good at conversions. But that's just basically that's their currency of the time. I just couldn't find out how much it was to relate it back.
Soon after, he would again take up work at his father's cigar factory. But later decided to file a lawsuit against his father under the claims that his ailments diagnosed by the military made him unable to work, and his father would contest the suit, to which Fritz would quickly drop the charges. Oof.
Yeah, so he's a little shit.
Yep. Sometime after, Fritz's father would attempt to initiate legal processing against him after a violent fight, citing verbal violence and death threats as well as blackmail. So nothing would come of it following a lack of evidence. So sometime after, in 1903, Fritz was ordered to undergo another psychiatric evaluation. This time by Dr. Andre, who would conclude that while being morally inferior, he was not mentally unstable.
I can only imagine what morally inferior meant in 1903.
I know, right?
In 1904, Fritz would be officially declared disabled and unable to work by the German 10th Army. I believe that's the part he was in, but not before opening a fish market with Erna and attempting to work as an insurance salesman. Soon after being declared unable to work, Erna would call off their engagement after being accused by Fritz of having an affair. And since the fish market was open in her name, she took full control and ordered Fritz to leave the premises. From 1905 to 1912, Fritz lived job to job, only leaving said jobs because he developed a habit of stealing what he could from his employers and even customers of said jobs whenever he could. As such, much of the time was spent in jail cells. He'd even claimed to have on several occasions gone grave robbing with a female coworker at one of those many jobs at one point, though no evidence of this was ever discovered.
All this would come to head when in 1913 Fritz was arrested for burglary, upon which his home was searched, revealing a treasure trove of stolen items, linking him to several more burglaries in the area. This would land him a 5-year prison sentence, and in August of 1918, my bad. After serving his 5 years, he would return to Hanover, staying with his sister until he eventually rented a 1-bedroom apartment on his own. Fritz would claim that at this time, due to the poverty of post-World War I Germany, he was forced into burglarizing and selling said stolen goods, putting him back into the same circle he had been in prior to his last arrest. Which does suck, because this is, like, after.
Yeah, that does kind of put a little bit of, like, a perspective on this, as this is in between World War I and II.
Yeah.
And Germany just got fucked. I mean, both times, but they really got fucked after World War I. Like, they're not doing good.
The citizens are suffering, lack of money, lack of resources.
Not that it excuses molesting and murdering children.
Nah.
I don't think anything excuses that. Not even being held captive by a child.
Oof.
Not even at that point can you be like, yo, he was holding me captive, so I had to diddle him.
What the fuck?
It was the only way out.
Sir, I don't think that's how that works, sir.
Sir, you're still under arrest. I don't give a shit.
Fritz would go on to gain a sort of relationship with law enforcement by becoming an informant. Police were aware of his past, though must have thought it a good idea to have a man on the inside to relay them information. And by 1919, Fritz was regularly giving police information on many of the fences he had been selling his stolen goods to. Did I say the right, fences?
Yeah, I guess that's like a word for people who buy stolen shit, I guess.
Huh.
I know.
Interesting.
Another word that we used when we were talking about Richard Ramirez.
Yeah.
You know, it all comes back to Dick Ramirez.
He would set up with officials times when a fence would come by to buy. That twisted me up. To buy stolen goods. Then the home would be raided and the fence arrested. Fritz would be arrested as well, so as not to raise suspicion amongst the other criminals in his circle. This gave Fritz a cozy relation with the Hanover police, even allowing him to the ability to mostly roam the streets freely as he wished.
Yeah, this might come up a little later too.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah, it's almost like cops have always been corrupt.
Ooh.
No, what am I saying? On September 25th, 1918, Fritz would take his first victim, 17-year-old Friedel Roth, I think. Friends of Friedel told police they had last seen him with Fritz, and after continued pressure from both friends and family of Friedel, police entered Fritz's apartment and found him in bed with a different teenage boy, and Fritz was arrested for sexual assault on a minor. Though police never searched Fritz's apartment, which Fritz would later state that if they had, they would have found Friedel's severed head wrapped in a newspaper behind the stove. Fritz was jailed for the young boy in his bed, but as no evidence was found of Friedel, he was never charged.
So this was happening as he was giving information to the police about...
He's working with the police the entire time, up until his final arrest.
Damn.
For the time being, Fritz was able to walk free, and in October, he would meet an 18-year-old man who, for lack of a better term, would eventually become, at best, complicit in his eventual acts, and at worst, his accomplice.
Hans Gans met Fritz outside the Hanover station after attempting to prostitute himself to Fritz. Hans was a runaway who made a living off of mostly selling old and stolen clothes before he met Fritz. Fritz took him home and they quickly became friends, then lovers. After his arrest, Fritz would say about Hans that he was like a son. Oh.
That is not what you should say about the guy you're fucking.
Nope. And that he pulled him out of the ditch and tried to make sure he didn't go to the dogs. Oof.
I mean, in the end, it was probably better that this guy went to the dogs.
Yeah. Though on several occasions they would have very heated arguments, usually ending in Fritz evicting Hans only too shortly after begging him to come back. Fritz would also say that he began to notice Hans was manipulative and mocking towards him, though he would learn to live with it as he grew up to need Hans's companionship.
They was in a toxic relationship.
Usually is when you're a murderer.
Yeah.
Then in March of 1920, Fritz would serve a 9-month sentence for the sexual assault of a minor charge he had gotten earlier. He was released in December and somehow was able to regain his position as a police informant. Why?
Yeah, not only did he only serve 9 months for raping a minor, they were just like, yeah, come back. You can come back with us, Fritz.
That's just fucked.
Yeah. That's not okay.
Through criminal contacts he had obtained as an informant, he discovered a vacant ground floor apartment. The room was inside of a densely populated house located alongside the Lena River.
Lina, I think.
Lina?
I think so.
Lina River. Fritz would obtain the room and he and Hans would move in.
One thing going into this, which can be seen as good or bad depending on what you want out of your true crime, we don't have descriptions of what happened to all of his victims because he confessed, like he basically didn't confess to most of it. So, and that's how, like, when going over true crime shit, you know, like, this happened to this person because the killer pretty much tells all. So, if you don't want to hear gruesome descriptions of what happened, you're in luck. We're not going to be.
So it's not a Gold Star episode?
It is, because we do have a basic description of what he said he did to all of his victims, just not each one. So we have, like, a 1. I would still say this is a Gold Star because this man is molesting and murdering young boys. So that's enough for me to say this is Gold Star.
Sure.
On February 12th, 1923, Fritz would take his second murder victim, 17-year-old pianist Fritz Frank. He found the boy at the Hanover station, which is basically where he finds every one of these victims.
Damn.
He just hangs out at the station and waits to find someone, which is insane to me that you can pick up victims from the same spot with as many as he had and not get charged with as long as he did. He invited him over to his apartment where he would introduce him to Hans and 2 of their female acquaintances. One of the 2 women there that night would later claim that on that evening, Hans would whisper to her, "Hey, he's going to get trampled on tonight." Don't know what that's supposed to mean.
I don't know either. Weird.
Yeah. When the woman came back the next day, Fritz told them that Frank had left to Hamburg. Fritz would also claim that the following day, Hans would show up to observe the deceased naked boy in the apartment. Here's where the Gold Star comes in, because we're just going to lay this out now. On how Fritz would get rid of the victims' bodies, he would say, quote, "I'd make 2 cuts in the abdomen and put the intestines in a bucket, then soak up the blood and crush the bones until the shoulders broke. Now I could get the heart, lungs, and kidneys and chop them up, put them in my bucket. I'd take the flesh off the bones and put it in my wax cloth bag. It would take me 5 or 6 trips to take everything and throw it down the toilet or into the river. I always hated doing this, but I couldn't help it. My passion was so much stronger than the horror of cutting and chopping, end quote.
Passion.
The passion of boy love.
Damn.
As well as on multiple occasions, he would do what he disgustingly coined, quote, love bites, in which he would bite through the victim's throat and drink their blood.
Jesus.
So, that Fritz is what's called a... I'm trying to remember if I get this right. There's process killer, and then there's... I'm forgetting what the other one's called. I'm going to call it possession killer. That's not what it's called.
Yeah.
But I'm forgetting what it's called. But there's process, and then there's the other one. Process is someone who kills because they like to kill, like a Chucky, who loves to just stab the shit out of someone.
Yeah.
And then product killer, that's what it's called. Product killer wants the person or the thing, but they don't like, or quote, don't like the killing. They kill to get something, but they don't enjoy the killing. Which, by that description, would mean that's what Fritz is, because he doesn't
enjoy it.
It's always funny to me, though, because the ones who say they don't enjoy it always do the most strenuous shit, like peeling the flesh off and chopping them. It's like you go through a lot of work doing something you do not like to do, apparently. So I think we should all... I'm glad that I did not write that every one of his victims.
Yeah.
Because apparently that's what he did to all of them.
Jesus. 5 weeks after the murder of Fritz Frank, right?
I think so. Frankie sounds weird. Frankie.
He would encounter another 17-year-old at the Hanover station, Wilhelm Schultz. Wilhelm Schultz.
Like the scream.
Ooh, wait, what?
Ah!
Oh. You... Why? What am I gonna do with you?
I got a couple ideas.
Ooh. Was traveling to work when he encountered Fritz. Unfortunately, Wilhelm's remains were never discovered. Although his clothes were found in the possession of Fritz's landlady at the ground floor of the apartment, left behind after Fritz eventually left, which sadly means Fritz was able to get the boy into his home as well.
Yep.
Damn. Before Fritz would leave the apartment, he would take 2 more victims. 16-year-old Ronald Hutch, who disappeared after telling his friends he was running away to join the Marines on May 23rd, and 19-year-old Hans Sonfield, who disappeared around May 31st.
This is just going to be a pattern that he just keeps taking and I don't know how he got away with it. Well, actually, I kind of do. We'll talk about it later.
A lot of runaways and whatnot, so has that too.
Well, not all of them. A lot of them are just traveling.
Oh, okay.
And not like the sovereign citizens.
Oh.
I'm not driving, I'm traveling. Then on June 9th, 1923, Fritz would move into a 1-bedroom attic room on 2 Rote Rye.
You're the one that knows German.
I know. I can't remember a lot of this. There's like... We're going to go with it. And just 2 weeks after moving in, on June 25th, 13-year-old Ernst Ehrenberg would go missing. Ernst was the son of one of Fritz's new neighbors and went missing after leaving to run errands for his father. His school cap and suspenders would be found in Fritz's apartment after his final arrest. Just 2 months later, on August 24th, Heinrich Struss, an 18-year-old office clerk, would be reported missing by his aunt. Heinrich's belongings would also be found in Fritz's apartment after his arrest. And only a month later, 17-year-old Paul Broniszewski, I'm sorry, would go missing on his way to the city of Bochum. And again, Paul's jacket, pants, backpack, and towel would be found in Fritz's apartment after his arrest.
Sometime around September 30th, 17-year-old Richard Graf,
I guess,
would tell his family how he met a man at the Hanover station who knows of a good job for me before going missing. Then on October 12th, 16-year-old Wilhelm Ernder did not return home after work. His parents would say that soon before his disappearance, Wilhelm had become acquainted with Detective Franz Honnenbrock, which was apparently an alias Fritz would occasionally use when acting as a police informant. Both Fritz and Hans would sell Wilhelm's bicycle after his murder. Not a week later, both 15 Herman Wolf and 13-year-old Heinz Beckman would go missing from the Hanover station on October 24th and October 27th, respectively. Damn. I'm sorry. Heinz was seen by a witness at the station around 11 p.m. after missing his train home to Closel.
On November 10th, 17-year-old Adolf Hannapel was seen by several witnesses at the Hanover station waiting for a train. Witnesses also claimed to see two men resembling Fritz Haarmann and Hans Grans in the station pointing out the boy and later entering a nearby cafe with him, which would have been the last time he would have been seen. 1 month later, 19-year-old Adolf Hennies would go missing as he attempted to find employment. Fritz would deny killing him, but dismembering, yes.
So he killed him?
No, he dismembered him. He didn't kill him. He was already dead. I just had to get rid of the evidence. I didn't kill. I just got rid of the evidence.
Sure.
He claimed to come home to find Hans in bed with another acquaintance and the body of Adolf missing Fritz's signature love bite. So you didn't kill him because he didn't bite the neck. Hans's testimony conflicted so much with Fritz that somehow in the end, neither would be charged with this murder.
The fuck?
Yeah.
Fucking legal system.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Fritz's murder continued to become more and more frequent, and that only picks up in 1924. 17-year-old Ernest Spiker.
I think it's Spiker.
Spiker disappeared on January 5th. Testimony from a friend of Ernest would claim that he, Ernest, and Fritz had become acquaintances prior to the murder. Fritz would say that he has no memory of the boy, though it must be true as Ernest's belongings were found in Fritz's apartment.
What a shit.
I know, right?
Like, I don't remember killing him, but I guess I must have. You found his shit in my apartment.
Yeah, no kidding.
A fucking asshole.
Only 10 days later, Fritz also murdered 20-year-old Heinrich Kosch, who also was said to have become acquainted with Fritz before the murder. Then on February 2nd, after telling his sister he was leaving to travel with a friend, 19-year-old Willie Songer would disappear from the suburbs of Lindenlemmer.
Lindenlemmer, I think.
And 16-year-old Herman Spiechart.
Spiker. These are hard. I'm sorry.
You disappoint me. You fail me every time.
I know.
You're supposed to be the German one. You're the white one.
I know, but I'm not German. I'm Welsh.
You bitch. But then, for reasons unknown, Fritz wouldn't take any other victims until April 1st. Now, even though he was cleared of this murder at his trial, it is still heavily believed that he is responsible for the murder of his acquaintance, Hermann Bach. Fritz was in possession of Hermann's clothing when his room was searched, as well as both giving Hermann's suitcase to his landlady and attempting to stop Hermann's acquaintances from reporting him missing. So it's pretty obvious why mostly think he's responsible.
Yeah, you know, when you go around and be like, yo, no, don't report him missing. Don't. He's not missing. He's not. On April 2nd, 16-year-old Alfred Hogeffe, yes, would run away from home in the town of Leert on the railways, ending up at the Hanover station and disappearing on April 8th. And 9 days later, during one of his patrols to the Hanover station, Fritz would find 16-year-old Wilhelm Appel. April 26th, 18-year-old Robert Wetzel was intent on visiting a traveling circus. Witnesses who last saw him would state that he'd been accompanied by a, quote, official from the railway station to the circus. And of course, that person was Fritz, who himself would admit to murdering the boy, dismembering him and throwing the remains into the Lena River.
Damn.
Yeah, it's just one after another with this fucker.
2 weeks after Robert's 14-year-old Hans Martin would last be seen by his mother on May 9th, it's believed he has been abducted from Hanover Station, as his clothes were also found in Fritz's apartment. Then on May 26th, a traveling salesman, 17-year-old Fritz Wittig,
I think.
Wittig, would be abducted and dismembered by Fritz. Allegedly at the request of Hans, because the salesman had a suit he wanted. Really?
Yep.
That's all?
I want a suit.
Yeah.
What great people.
I know, right? Fritz admitted to throwing his remains in the Lena River, and on the same day, Fritz would also take the life of 10-year-old Friedrich Adeline while he skipped school. Fuck.
Don't skip school, kids, or you'll get abducted by a pedophile.
Oh, yeah, that happens.
Actually, yeah, that happens a lot.
Yeah.
Not even 2 weeks later, Fritz would take the life of 16-year-old Friedrich Koch. I think. I don't want to say Koch, because I don't think that's right, even though that might actually be how it's said, so I'm going to say Koch.
Maybe.
Friends would testify at Fritz's trial that as they walked with Friedrich to college on the day of his disappearance, Fritz approached the boy, saying, quote, "Well, boy, don't you recognize me?"
I mean...
Who the fuck knows? Probably.
Yeah.
Which takes us, thank fuck, to the final victim. On June 14th, 17-year-old Eric DeVry encountered Fritz at the Hanover station. His remains were later discovered in a lake by the Herrenhausen Gardens. Fritz used the bag he stole from Friedrich to move the body parts.
Damn.
So, okay, now we're done depressingly counting off how many young men have gone missing because of this fuck. A lot.
Jesus, a lot.
If it didn't put in perspective how much of an asshole this guy is.
So now we cut to the end of Fritz Haarmann, as the remains of many of his victims are discovered. At first, police would write off the discoveries of leftovers from a grave robber or a tasteless med student prank.
You know how they like to just put remains in the river.
Oh yeah, I know. It happens all the time.
All
At
the
least
time.
every freshman year. The first is discovered on May 17th when two boys found a human skull while playing near Lena River. The skull appeared to be that of a male between the ages of 18 to 20 with clear knife wounds. But then on May 29th, another skull described almost identically to the first is found, and soon after, near the village of Doran,
I think so.
two boys discovered a bag of human bones. Oof.
Kids are just finding remains left and right.
They're traumatized kids, is what they are.
Oh, Jesus.
Two more skulls would be found on June 13th. Both had evidence of being severed and scalped. One was the age between 18 to 20 and the other 11 or 14.
Yikes.
Oof.
These discoveries reignited already spreading rumors regarding the number of children going missing in Hanover over the last few years, and several hundred residents of Hanover would go to Lena River in search for more remains. Several body parts would be discovered and turned over to police, which would cause authorities to sweep the river in the main area of the city. In doing so, they uncovered over 500 human bones, as well as whole sections of human bodies, many bearing similar knife marks. Doctors would later state that these remains belonged to at least 22 separate people. About half the remains were judged to have been in the river for months, while the rest seemed much more recent. On top of having evidence of being dissected, they were all also aged between 15 to 20. Fritz was quickly put down as suspect number one. Police were aware of his prior charges of child molestation and sexual assault of a minor and decided to have him followed. Wow. Yeah, they knew this all along, and they were just...
Not doing anything about it because...
whatever. Yeah. They were all aware of his regular patrols to the Hanover station, so two young officers went undercover to follow Fritz, and the investigation began June 18th. I love how they're all they all know that he goes over there all the time,
Yeah.
which is where all these kids are going missing at. And it takes up until now for them to even try to look into it.
On the 9th of June 22nd, the two undercover officers observed Fritz agreeing with a 15-year-old boy named Carl Fromm. The cops revealed themselves, and Fritz ordered that the boy be arrested as he was traveling with false documents.
I don't
Damn,
think that's
really?
I don't think that's what they were arguing over.
But then the boy clapped back, telling the police that he had been captured by Fritz for days and raped, at times with a knife to his throat, and Fritz was also subsequently arrested. Ooh, good
yeah.
though. Finally. After his arrest, as we mentioned in a few times, Fritz's apartment was searched. The first thing the police noticed was a sheer amount of blood covering the floor, walls, and many pieces of furniture, to which tried to explain away by claiming to be in the contraband meat business.
I don't know what that's supposed to be.
That's weird.
Like, yeah, no, I'm butchering animals in here illegally. That's why there's blood everywhere. Don't test it. Don't ask questions. Don't search my apartment.
To the late, we're doing all of that.
I don't know what contraband meat is supposed to be, but okay.
Weird. Many of Fritz's neighbors were interviewed, to which they all pretty much claimed to see him enter his place of living with young men and even in early morning hours with concealed bags. One neighbor in particular came to follow him one morning to observe him throwing the bags into the Leanne River.
Yup. The clothes of all his victims were confiscated and put on display at the Hanover police station. And it all came to a close on June 29th, when the clothes of Robert Wetzel were identified, as well as a skull found in a nearby garden being identified as belonging to Robert as well. Then the friends we mentioned earlier who claimed to see Fritz approached Robert on his way to college on the last day he'd been seen came forward. Fritz could no longer deflect the evidence and broke down. After all the evidence came forward and the urging of his sister to come clean, Fritz would confess to the rape and murder of many young men and boys. He claimed he had no intent to murder, but the urge to bite into and through their throats was too much to bear. Fritz would be found guilty of 24 to 27 counts of murder and sentenced to death by beheading. Hans was also sentenced to death on incitement to murder. And
Nice.
so ends that reign of fucking garbage. There's a lot of talk about how he got away with the shit for as long as he did because he was cozy with the police.
Yeah.
Because he had that little arrangement where he was just kind of helping them arrest people, which is really fucked up.
Oh yeah, big time fucked up.
Yeah. But yeah, so there's that. There was your taste of real world spooky for this Halloween season. We'll probably do something a little less fucked up next week. But yeah, I was gonna do either that or there was, oddly enough, another German serial killer from around the same time called Peter Curtin, who was called the Vampire of Dusseldorf, which is the town he was from in Germany. The Vampire of Dusseldorf.
I had to think of that.
It sounds like a terrible D&D made up name.
It does.
The Wizard Dusseldorf. But yeah, no, they were both called the Vampire of town they were from, and they were both from the 1900s.
Damn.
But I don't know.
That's really close to World War II as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
might cover him later because he's kind of interesting too. But I figured we'd do one a little less well known.
Yeah.
And that's it for us today. Thank you all, as always, for listening.
Yeah, thank you.
Don't go anywhere with strangers.
We appreciate you all. Don't talk to them. Leave them alone. If they're trying to beckon you,
Leave.
flip them the fuck off and leave.
Yeah, just get the fuck out of there. Because nothing good's gonna come of it.
Nope. That never does.
No. Just, yeah.
Even if you think you might know them, don't do it.
Yeah.
Don't do it.
Don't do it.
You're in the...
You go and die. You go and die. It's not gonna be good. Again, thank you all for listening.
Thank you. Hope you all had a great time.
Mm-hmm.
Hope you all enjoying the rest of our shows as well.
Yeah. All of our information is in the show notes as always. Twitter, email, Patreon, all that good. So,
All right.
hail Satan, everyone.
Blessed be. Y'all have a good time. Take care.
Fuck
Be
off.
safe. Be safe and have protection.
Climb into a stranger's van. Do it. Bet you won't.
Don't do that. That's bad. Okay, that's really bad.
Bet.
Bye.